I'm gonna write a book. It's gonna be the shortest book in the world. It's 3 steps on how to do anything.
Okay.
Right? Step 1, find out what you want to do. Step 2, start doing it. Step 3, you did it. Step 4,
that's it.
Which is the epilogue. Step 4
Step
is
4.
Keep doing
it. You look so goofy. All right, Anthony.
Oh, goodness, man.
What's
going on, buddy?
Dude, it's been a while. What?
A long time.
Man. What are you doing these days? Like what?
Well,
like what are you filling your time with?
Family. Definitely a lot of family time.
Yeah.
Random at this point in time, some other projects, such as I still do the Bros Before Oboes pro wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
So that's we attempt to do that weekly, if not once a month if we can, at least. Random music project. I started writing some metal songs.
Dude.
And just for the sake of just because, why not?
You've been writing some metal songs?
Yeah, dude, greatest concert ever. Super shameless plug. But these dudes, Iron Maiden, the best concert, hands down.
Yeah.
Greatest show.
Even now,
dude. Oh my God, it was. Me and my buddy Lan went. Did you work with Lamberto?
No.
Dude, he's awesome. But either way, we go to shows, and he's a big metalhead too.
Yeah.
And we saw these guys play, and like I've always geeked out on heavy metal or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to record, and I play guitar, and I play drums, I play bass, and do all that stuff. So I've got a little bit more free time, well, quote unquote free time. A little bit more time now.
You make your time.
So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
so the other day I made that song for you because I was like, dude, if you don't have a song for your podcast, I'll whip something up.
Yeah.
And then shortly after I did that, I just decided I'm just gonna pick up a guitar and just play some, distorted metal riffs. And then sure enough, just was like,
dude, I love it. I loved it.
Cool chorus, and yeah, man, it was fun.
I was at work. I saw that you messaged it to me, and I tried to listen to it on my phone, and for whatever reason, it didn't want to do it. But then I got to work and I walked in, and then I pulled it up and I was about to listen to it, and then I got like bombarded by a bunch of people. I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it later. And then like an hour later, I finally got back to my desk, and then I hit play. I was like, yes, this is so good. And I was just, I like listened to it like 3 or 4 times. Like, yeah, like I'm feeling that. That's awesome. And then like I started just kind of jamming out to like that short bit. And I was like, oh, that's really good. I wish there's more. That's awesome.
What's cool is I've come to discover like when you do intro stuff, it can't be super long as much as like
it's just like a stinger. It's almost
exactly 10 seconds. Man.
10 seconds. No, that's awesome. Yeah, what's interesting about like this project especially is like I've done recorded content, I've done live content.
Yeah.
All in video, but like I've dabbled in podcasting but never really like produced anything and like I was happy with. But this is interesting because I really want to like do the whole like take what knowledge I've done in video production and still translate that as a podcast, but then of course purely as audio. So like this stuff like a music intro, like even though I have intros in my live shows and things like that, it's always it's different. It feels different. And so I didn't I've listened to so many different podcasts. I was like, oh man, I do need music. When you asked me that, I was like, hell. I was like, I know this, but I didn't do it. But anyway, dude, how long have you been doing like creating music? Like ever since I've known you, I've known that's what you've been doing, but like sure. I don't know this, like I don't know the story here, if there is a story. But like How long? Like, tell me about it.
Honestly, man, like it's cool. I'll put it this way. So I have my son Rocco is going to be 4 years old,
Dude, that's awesome.
and the reason I bring this up is because he, being four,
Uh-huh.
is doing the same exact things that I was doing when I was 3 and 4, which is just making up songs about anything and everything, right?
Right.
So, of course, like he sings like like itsy bitsy spider stuff, but there are times uh, there are times like when we'll drive him to school and he'll be like, you know, I want the rain to go away. I want the rain to go away. And he'll just
Right.
like say it a million times, and it's like, dude, that's you get that.
Right.
The other day, Liz, my wife, put up a video on I think it was like Facebook and Instagram, but I'm just playing guitar. I'm just shirtless playing guitar, playing some metal riffs,
Like you do.
and yeah, like I do. And Rocco was just saying the exact same thing I was doing when I was a kid, was just making up stuff. He's like pterodactyl on my head, pterodactyl on my face. Oh, it's just like I know,
Dude,
just take it, beat rhythm.
that's
But
amazing. So
but
you've been doing this forever, as long as you
ever
can
since I
remember.
was a kid, I will say this, there was a point in time that really affected me, and I held on to it for a really long time. It really hasn't been until recent, within the last year or two, of that.
Yeah.
Um, so most people have known me to be a drummer,
Right.
playing drums, and I've
Right.
always had my hand in music. But before I played drums, I played guitar, and I loved to sing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love singing. It's the same thing. Rocco's in this like fresh age where it doesn't matter what you sound like, you just have this you're fearless with just what you create and how you present it, right?
Right.
Um, so there was, I think it was like fourth grade or fifth grade or something like that. I think it was fourth.
Yeah.
Where in music class, we would sing songs and stuff. And I remember, oh man, I remember this so distinctly. So I'm sitting in class and we have our books, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, open it up. And it's the national anthem. And I was like, yeah, I want to sing that. Teacher was like, hey, who wants to sing this? And of course, I'm like, I want to sing this. And I gave it everything, dude. I gave it the gusto and then some. And
Yeah.
as I get to the end of the song,
Yeah.
I get to like end the bombs bursting in air and all this stuff, like the pinnacle of the song.
Yeah.
The entire class started laughing.
Oh no.
And at that moment in time, I just felt my creative haven just crumble.
Yeah.
And at that point, I discovered, like, well, F this. Like, this is the worst feeling in the world.
Right.
And it put me into this, like, sanctum in my head
Yeah.
where it was like, this is where I'm gonna retreat to. So I found that, and it was lonely. It was terrible. It really guarded me from playing guitar
Yeah.
and singing songs and this, that, the other. And and then at that point, like I started like picking up drums, and I was like, okay, well, I still need to have my hand in music, but I don't have to be in like the front man or like the lead guy. And I just channeled all of my music passion per se into drums. But even though I stopped singing in front of people and I stopped playing guitar in front of people, dude, I have literally hundreds of songs from like grade school to high school to now that are just on voice recorders, voice memos, uh, random things in Pro Tools. Like,
That's
I will
awesome.
never stop creating. I just got to a point where, at least in that moment as a kid,
Yeah.
that stuck with me, that I was terrified to really showcase it. But there is a good ending to the story.
Right.
Is I'm beginning to realize that it's selfish of me to not release music, and it would be selfish of me to not let that stuff out, even though I would feel awkward about it.
Right.
But I've come to learn growing up, like I'm 33 years old now. So like the idea is like you reach a point where you just kind of go, you know what?
Yeah.
Whatever I do, I'm just going to do it. And one
Yeah.
thing that I think both of us share as creators, especially,
Yeah.
is curiosity. And this is something that popped up recently. I was listening to a podcast, it was like a finance podcast or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this guy goes, how can you tell if an advisor is going to be successful, like the first 3 minutes of meeting with
Right.
them? And of course, I'm going to gravitate to that. Like, I want to
Yeah.
know. And the guy just says, he says curiosity. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because here's the thing. Here's what's helped quell my fears
Yeah.
is curiosity is like Rocco's playfulness, this childhood playfulness that fear doesn't matter, right? It
Right.
doesn't matter. It's you're enjoying this creativity, you're enjoying this feeling, you're
Well,
enjoying this performance,
yeah,
and
definitely. Definitely.
so
And to ask you, like, I want to
mhm,
ask you something here. The curiosity that Rocco has, or the curiosity, like the fact that you said, he's not, there's no fear there, right? Like there's no,
mhm,
I don't think we form insecurities until we're a little older. And I think that's why, children in particular, because they're sponges, right? They want to learn things, and then they're also not just taking things in, they're putting it back out in the world. And it's because that lack of fear or
mhm,
insecurity. And I think that's why creators um end up never even starting in some regards, right? Like,
mhm,
or even the case of not releasing things. Like, I get that. Like, I have piles of videos that I've never released, that I've made, of stuff like this. And
yeah,
and this is getting released one way or another.
yeah,
But like, I've done dozens of just like stuff like this, trying to figure this out. And so I feel you on that one. So what do you think, like, so on the curiosity thread, so what do you think makes, like, do you agree with that? Like the whole, like, making uh being successful includes some sort of curiosity, or like, what do you how do you take that? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
Curiosity and success absolutely go hand in hand because if you're genuinely curious,
Yeah.
you no longer have this idea of like what could it be like. It's more of a how can I experience this.
Right.
Curiosity in terms of success is essentially saying I don't want to take this. I don't want to just live this picture in my head. I don't want to just live this experience in my head.
Right.
I'm curious what it would feel like physically
Yeah.
to experience said thing,
Right.
right? Whether it's I'm curious. Well, how would the world react if if I made a video game, or if I wrote a poem,
Yeah.
or if I sang a song, or if I made a video, or I wonder how the world would react, or how people would react if I
Right.
wrote a book, or you know, I'm curious what the outcome would be if I told a friend, just how much they mean to me. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like, how would I go about doing that? And then you get to live that experience. And that goes with success, right? With great success comes taking risks.
Yeah.
And taking risks means you have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So, in my experience, like for the longest time, it was I want to be guarded, but I'm going to find a new way to express myself.
Yeah.
And I did that, but I had to confront the fear of putting myself out there, the fear of
Yeah.
exposing myself,
Yeah.
um, for lack of better words. But
It's
that in and of itself is how you become successful because
right.
you can't be successful in your own head. Um, I'm a musician, so there's always a funny adage of like, your band is just a legend of your mom's garage.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
neat. Like we sold out to a crowd of cats. That was our greatest concert, but no one ever saw it. You
Yeah.
got to get out of the garage. You got to get out of your head, and you have to approach it with curiosity because, again,
Right.
curiosity quells all fears because there's a playfulness to it. There's like it just kind of eliminates feeling fearful and feeling like there's a pressure
Yeah.
having to create something. It's more or
Yeah.
less.
There's so much pressure, right? Because like especially now, right? Like this day and age, when you hit live or you hit record and or post or submit or whatever it is, it puts it in the world. Like that anyone with an internet connection will be able to see and experience this now. We live in an age where, you know, someone like Justin Bieber existed, right? Like he was
Ah,
discovered on YouTube. So it's and now look at him. Like he's famous, right? There's so many of these things that start just from like pushing that single button. And our grandparents can't say that, right? Like
yeah.
our great grandparents, they can't say that. They can't say that, oh yeah, I just made a thing and suddenly like hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or even millions of people have seen it.
Well,
And
think about this though. Like grandparents or great grandparents, like they had to be that much more intentional about what they were trying to create,
oh yeah,
right? Like they
yeah,
would have to have the resources of, well, if I want to, record a song, like I
right.
have I have to go out and find a band. I have to audition this band. I
Yeah.
have to write these songs. I have to seek out a guy to record it.
I need the equipment or the people that will do it, and then I need people that will produce it, and then
It just seems
get
to
me,
me like
yeah.
the pipeline is that much longer for older generations. But nowadays, to your point, it's a click of a button, right?
Yeah,
And that it's equally terrifying as it is liberating.
it is. It is. I mean, like most people now, like the the phone in their pocket
Hmm.
could be their ticket to becoming, you know, like becoming a creator. Like they can just do it. They can hit record on their phone and
Yeah.
post it on the internet and just that's it. They did it. And you're right, that's scary. How do you get over that fear? Like what is like what how do you use curiosity to overcome that?
Again, the way I do it is, you know, I'm curious how this is going to work,
I
and
want
I'm
to see.
curious,
I
like,
want to know.
I see it, right? I mean, sure, and again, there's always a fear that you're going to put yourself out there and the entire class is going to laugh at you. That is a real risk.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now that I look back at it, and believe me, I have done tons of processing on this and have
Oh, I bet.
so much, man. It weighed heavy. But someone had told me, like, well, what if they were laughing because they themselves couldn't have done that, or
Dude,
they themselves wouldn't
it's
have put
so
themselves
true.
out the way you did. And that flipped it on its head. And I went, I never thought of it that way. And to confront the fear is what makes you alive. And that to me is what gives you choice and control.
Uh-huh.
Because truly, if you want something, you're going to find a way to do it. And the question you're going to ask yourself is, how am I going to do it?
Right.
How will I do this? Well, I'm going to get some buddies together and make a video.
Yeah.
Or I'm just going to get some instruments together and just write a song.
Right.
Or I'm gonna get a pen and paper and I'm just gonna write what's on my mind. Like you have to do it. You have to take the first step,
Yeah.
and that to me proves whether or not you've got the tenacity and the gusto, and you're willing to take on the risk to fail. But failure's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, and if you know it's inevitable, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So
Yeah.
therefore, embrace it.
Yeah.
Like let that be a part of your story. No one's ever perfect,
Right.
you know.
And to that point, like being afraid of how people are going to react to it, I think only slows you down in that you'll never know. Like this is in my like from my perspective, it's a different kind of curiosity, right? Like I think
Hmm.
there's an aspect of that curiosity that can be debilitating to a point, right? Because it's the whole, oh man, I wonder if it's even good enough, or I wonder if I'm gonna get laughed at, and that's I think the part that stops a lot of creators from like doing their thing. And like you said, it's a matter of just doing it and starting or not being afraid of failing. And I think we all try so hard, we want to be perfect right out of the gate. And
Hmm.
I think that is what stops so many people before they even start, right? Cuz like I think one common theme amongst a lot of successful creators is that their catalog of whatever it is they've created is doesn't span usually just like a month or two or a couple weeks. It's like years of creation typically. The folks that you think of when you think of like, who's the greatest band of all time, or like who's my favorite podcasters, like they didn't just start, you know.
Yeah.
It's not it's not an overnight thing. And I think a lot of us have this picture in our head when we're like, "Oh, I'm going to write a song, or I'm going to post a video online." Like it has to be perfect, or it has to be meeting some like guideline or some, you know,
Hmm.
level of quality that you're familiar with, that you see in other folks out there who are creating. But people forget that at one point those same people quietly posted a video that no one watched, probably,
Hmm.
right? Or like wrote a song that only one or two people actually listened to. And so I think it's that, like, I think you're right. Like fear is so like fear can overcome curiosity in ways that stops us from doing it, and it's a matter of just starting.
It can be paralyzing at
Yeah,
times,
yeah, dude.
you know.
It's tough.
Yeah,
We
but the
will,
thing is, you gotta do it. You know what I mean? If you want it, if you want to share what you have
yeah,
or what it is that you do, you really have no other choice but to put yourself out there.
yeah.
But you're right. There's a lot of people that are, come on, man. We live in an age now where it's all vanity metrics, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I got a bazillion followers, but then like they post and you look at, well, only like two people liked it. So neat. You have 2 million followers and two people engaged with you.
Yeah.
It's like you got the coolest house on the block, but nobody ever goes there. So is it really the coolest house on the block? Like neat, you know
Yeah.
the the but what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of vanity and a lot of bars that we set and a lot of our own obstacles that we put in our own way, right?
Right.
It's got to sound this way. I gotta be heard in this light, or I have to be seen in this light,
Right.
or I have to,
Why don't I have thousands of followers or subscribers?
because you need to start with one, dude. It's literally brick by brick
It's
by
brick.
brick.
No, you are so right. And I spent years as a Twitch streamer, streaming like really like 4 or 5 nights a week for almost 2 years. And for months, it was like I'm streaming to like four people or like three people. And there were so many times I was like, why am I doing this? Like, and I think inevitably when you're on a platform like that, whether it's YouTube or like even Instagram, like you
Mhm.
start paying attention to these metrics that, yeah, the platforms regard as something important. People notice those numbers, but it does nothing for your content, and it does nothing for your ability to produce quality content or get better at just doing the thing. And I've fallen into that trap where I'm like, oh man, I only had like 60 people watching last night. And it's like, wait, that's like, you know, a lecture hall in like,
That's 60 people.
yeah. And it's like, and I found myself going, oh, shit, man, I only had like 50 people watching. last night. And then like I say it with such like disappointment and disgust in myself. And then, you have a friend who's like, yo, that was like 50 like people. And I'm like, oh yeah. And you start to lose perspective because you look at the front page of like a platform like that, and some of the most popular people have like tens of thousands of people watching them. But like, yo, like I think if you're even creating for, like you need to be creating for yourself, right?
Hmm.
You need to be creating because you want to make something for you, and you want to share that. But people get so lost in those numbers, and it's just
But
crazy.
I think a good question to ask that pops up in my head is, would you still create if you couldn't see the metrics?
That is a
Right?
wonderful question.
If it came down to where, like, I don't know how many people are watching, this could be one, it could be a million, would you still create, and would you still create with the same passion and performance that you would if
Right.
it was one, or if it was 1 million? And truly, to me, like, that separates, you know creators
Yes.
from, people speculating and just chasing
Yes.
a vanity idea.
Yes. I I had this conversation with a friend of mine from Twitch, and uh he was like, "Oh, yo, how are you? How you been?" I'm like, "Oh, I've been good." And we talked about the fact that I took a break from Twitch, and
Yeah,
I took a break because I wanted to focus on my family, and I wanted to focus on me, and
yeah,
I wanted to go back to the drawing board in terms of like because like why am I creating the things that I'm creating? And I took a lot of time thinking about that. And I told him, I was like, hey, I've been good. The time is good. I've been thinking about the whole point of this, but I've never stopped creating. I've recorded stuff like this. I've worked on other things that I've wanted to push out into the world, and I've done it in small doses in different ways. But then, I asked him, I flipped it to him. I'm like, how you been? And he's still streaming, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. Things are good, but I'm really pushing to like to build my viewer base. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I want to grow. I'm like, okay. Like I get that. You want to grow, but like,
yeah,
is that why you're doing it? Or are you doing it for the act of streaming? Right? Like it should be and that's the perspective I think a lot of creators have to gain at some point if they don't already know it going in, right? Where it's like, don't get lost in those numbers because
yeah,
it's not that's not why you create, you know. I mean, you want to share your content, you want to share your creation. Yeah, that's fine. I get that. But like that is when I think it kind of came to a head for me when I was like, "Oh, dude, like I was like think about why you're doing it because
hmm,
don't chase the numbers. Don't chase the I want to grow my community because I've said that before and I'm like,
sure, yeah,
and like I get it, but at the same time, it's dude. But what are you doing for your community? What value are you bringing? Like, why is it important? Because they're showing up for a reason. It's not just because you want to incentivize them to follow or subscribe. You know.
sure,
So I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's really interesting that we live in this. Like these platforms are not even like more than what a decade old 15
isn't that
like
crazy? It
twitter's
changed
like
the
twitter
world.
like social media is what you know like 15, 20 years old, but
Yeah.
it's crazy.
What I remind myself to often, like, get a lot of rap for this being a millennial, whatever. Here's what I look at it, man.
Yeah,
Our generation we're post analog, pre digital.
we were in between.
we're the crossroad generation, so we knew like
Mhm.
VHS tapes, cassette tapes, into the CD world, into the MP3 world. We were in the AIM, AOL, Yahoo chat room,
Oh, dude, yeah.
screen name generation to then it became, MySpace, as silly as it is, but that was the
No,
original
that
showcase.
was it, man, at the time, until
Getting your
Facebook.
top eight, your friends, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And then it continued to snowball, and then like Twitter shows up, and then Instagram shows up, and now literally, I think what it all boils down to is if you're genuinely curious,
Yeah.
then you yourself have a characteristic of being genuine,
Yeah.
and that's what people want. That's what people engage with because that's human,
Yeah.
right? No offense to any Instagram influencer out there.
Yo, I'm
Great,
not
you're doing
offended.
what you're doing, but love those speedo pics, man. You know, what I'm getting at is there's a certain level of like humanity, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
I love seeing people behind the scenes because that's that's the human element. That's the human production, right?
Mhm.
Versus like being, in this perfect lighting with these perfect cameras, and then the picture's taken and then it's uploaded to
Yeah.
your phone, and then posted through social media. It's like, no,
Goes through
like,
some filters,
yeah,
etcetera.
it's
Yeah.
just show me the picture, show me that you're human, and show me that you're genuine because that's the connection, man. That's the human bond. You can only fool people for so long.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it's like, if you're just chasing the numbers, great, you might get it.
Yeah.
But what do you do when you get it? And what do you do when it's not there anymore?
And it's yeah, and the thing is, and I've learned this after having just a taste of just a little bit of just, like, growth on something like Twitch, it's never enough, right?
Never enough. Never enough.
It's never gonna be enough. And so when you create and you start to chase metrics or you start to chase fame or something along those lines, you lose sight of like why you probably did it in the first place, or you lost that curiosity of like, I wonder what would happen if I made this thing, or if I did it like this, or if I, you know, tried something that people don't ordinarily do. You get lost in
Yeah.
the loop of like, oh, is this going to get me more downloads or listens or views or followers or etc. And then you're in my opinion, that's not that's not how one should create. That's not what should drive you, because you lose that humanity. You lose that genuine, connection with whatever it is that you're building.
Yeah. You got to have a why. You have to figure out your why. And you have to be willing to share what you can create.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be able to reflect on yourself and what it is that you make and be happy that you are creating. Maybe it's never enough. Maybe it's never the perfect production.
Yeah. It's true.
That's subjective to one's own self. But
It is.
the idea becomes you have to make something. And a lot of the times, sure, it may not be the best thing, but
Mhm.
you're doing, if you're creating and putting things out there, you're doing more than like 90% of the people out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people can sit and wish on their couch, I wish I could play a guitar. I would love to be on stage. It's like you have an opportunity,
Oh,
right? Like
dude, yeah.
you just got to want it. You got to be able to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Long story short, you got to be curious because curiosity will quell fears, and it will be a conduit to success. And success means taking risks and being able to evaluate your own attitude,
Mhm.
your own behavior towards why you're doing what you're doing. But it also gives you an opportunity to reflect on the community that you're sharing it with,
Right.
and your community will, if you're genuine to them, they'll be genuine to you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you
Definitely.
can use that feedback to build and grow, organically or whatever. Practice to me doesn't make perfect. Practice makes performance.
Yeah.
And if you continuously do it over and over and over, eventually you get better at that because that's just naturally what you're doing.
Yeah. It's
So
true.
I think for anybody out there that's, wanting to take that first step. I'm going to patent this idea right now. So you heard it first on Moore's podcast, but I'm going to write a book. It's going to be the shortest book in the world.
Yeah.
It's 3 steps on how to do anything, right?
Okay.
Step one, find out what you want to do.
Uh-huh.
Step two, start doing it. Step three, you did it. Step four,
That's it.
which is the epilogue. Step four
Step
is
4.
keep doing
Keep doing it. It's true, dude. It's so true, man. What It's hard. It's hard to even, like, I think, pull that trigger, right? I think that's why,
it.
and you get so many of those people out there, and, I've done it, and I have
We've
that.
all done
We've
it.
all
No
done it
one.
where yeah, where it's just like, "Oh, man, yo, I wish I could do this thing," you know? And I don't know what it was. At some point, I decided that, you especially when I hear it from friends, I'm harsh on my friends, I found, because I tell it how it is. But I used to have friends that are just, would say something like that, right? Where they're just like, "Oh, dude, I like okay," like they comment on the fact that I design games for a living, right? And they're like, "Oh man, I wish I could just design a game, or I wish I could make a game." And I'm like, "Guess what? You can." Like or like, "Hey, it's cool that you keep up with the latest video games, and that's awesome. I wish I had time for that." I'm like, "You probably do. You probably have
You do.
time. You just got to make it." It's frustrating, right? Like, it's frustrating to feel like you can't do something, but as the friend who hears people say that, I'm kind of the jerk that's like, "Then do it." Like like
Well, it's true. You need that. The truth is, if it's truly important, you'll find a way to do it. How will I do
yeah,
it? If you say you have no time,
make it.
truth be told, and this is a harsh reality of reality,
Mhm.
then it's not important to you.
Right, because you're filling your time
You
with
know,
all the other things that are important to you.
if you're not finding a way, you're finding an excuse. And the truth is, you do have the time,
Yeah.
right? How
Yeah.
does any, like Warren Buffett or, freaking Bill Gates, LeBron James, any, any, we all have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
These dudes don't get any more time than we do.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, what is important to them? What is important to you? And if it truly is important, you'll be curious as to how you're going to achieve it. And if you're genuinely curious, then you're going to take that playful risk
Right.
and see just how far you can go. And then you'd be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch base on that you had hit, if you chase it and you're trying to chase fame and do this, that, and the other, I think what gets lost is not setting a point of arrival,
Yeah.
not setting a celebration moment where you put a stake in the ground and go, when I get 10 followers, that's point of arrival for this goal, and I'm going to celebrate.
Yeah.
When I get to 100 followers, when I get to 1,000 followers, when I get to 10,000 followers, when I do this, that, the other, like, you got to establish that, because if not, then you're pushing on the fog of the future with everybody else, but
Mhm.
you lose total sight as to where you came from.
Yeah.
And then you get overwhelmed, and then you get disoriented and get like this, creative vertigo. But if you're planting stakes in the ground as you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
it's humbling,
It is.
because you can look back and go, man, I remember how I felt when I had 2 people following me, but now I've got 2 million.
Yeah.
Like, wow, what a, whew, that's cool. Like, that's humbling.
Mhm. And then it's like, your description of that makes me think of, like, when your parents measured your height on the wall, right? Because then you can look
That's
back,
funny.
right? You look back and you're like, "Oh man, like, I'm
Yeah.
still only 5'1", but like." But it's true though, because you look back and you see the growth and you see the progress, and that's reassuring that at least you're doing something right. But then
Yeah.
I guess my question is, what do you do when you don't reach that next thing, or you feel like you're not? Like, what do you
take a step back.
what do you do?
I take a step back. You know, before before getting into the career I'm in now, a finance career, which I never thought I'd be in the
I'll be
finance
honest, I
industry.
never thought that to be true
I
either.
know
I never would have
it's
predicted that.
because okay, another rule of the universe is go with the flow and be adaptable, right? No, but be perfectly honest. So before I got into finance, I was working in a recording studio. I was playing in bands. I was, really chasing down first I'm going to be a performer. Then I'm going to learn the art and science of audio engineering. Then I'm going to go and start a production company. Then I'm going to go and like make this my career. Like I'm going to make it in the music industry.
Right.
And there came a point where it was, why am I doing this? This isn't fun anymore.
Yep.
This doesn't fuel me like it did in the past. And I had to confront that. And I had to confront it in a way where it was, I cannot allow this feeling of like chasing this down to be my identity, because in reality my identity is ever changing to be, to be like I'm on this like never ending quest for self discovery,
Right.
and so I had this humbling point where it was, I got to do something different. And I've been playing live music and being in bands since I was 15 years old. Prior to that, of course, in grade school and stuff. But either way, like professionally getting paid, that's half my life. I'm 33. If I'm playing 15, it's like 18 years of my life, right?
Right.
So, there was a point where, I had to say, you know what? I can take my hands off the workbench and I'm going to reflect and I'm going to connect the dots backward. I'm not going to try to connect the dots forward.
Right.
I'm gonna step away and I'm going to just evaluate where I've been and why I'm doing it. And then I pursued something different. I got a business degree and I've always been interested in just business and investing and this, that, the other. And I was like, you know what? I'm genuinely curious what I can learn more about.
That's
And
amazing.
then I fell deep into the rabbit hole of I can really, this is like my passion behind my work outside of music and creation, which really satiates just my analytical brain, is there's a lot of impact in that. And I decided to take it upon myself to learn this industry and to learn these strategies and to truly empower people, right? Like what fuels me in everything that I do is I want to learn something and I
Yeah.
want to teach that to somebody.
Yeah.
I want to make it easier for someone else. And I want to be able to teach and impact their life. And not only that, but I want to empower people to take the next step, right? And finance is so freaking boring. Nobody wants to talk about 401ks.
It's true.
Nobody wants to
It's
talk about
true.
saving. But the truth is, here's my little shameless plug, you know, just save your damn money. Just save your damn money.
is that
So,
is that your other book that you're going to write? It's like step one, save your damn money.
Step one, what do I want to do with this money? Step two, start saving your damn money. Step three, you've saved enough money to do what you wanted to do in step one.
Yeah.
Step four, rinse and repeat.
There it is.
Gosh,
That's your free financial advice from Anthony.
that is it. I'll send you a bill. No, but to answer the question, when things get overwhelming,
right.
and the engine begins to overheat, take your freaking foot off the gas. Chances are, if you pull over, you might be somewhere scenic.
Yeah.
You might be somewhere where you haven't been before.
Yeah.
And it's okay to get out. It's okay to open your eyes. It's okay to let out some steam.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just reflect on that. And I don't think enough people do that.
You're right.
But I have found that works for me, because then I can come back to this creative zone and go, you know why I'm doing this? I'm doing this because I like doing this.
Yeah.
I like making metal riffs. I like making, fun songs for friends. I like playing drums. I like, coming up with melodies and I like going to shows, and I like reading about the stock market and this, that, the other, and world economics. Like I like those things,
Yeah.
and it's just a healthy way to come back, and it isn't. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in taking your hands off the workbench.
Yeah.
There's no shame in walking away for a bit
Take a
and
break.
then coming back new. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You dust yourself off, take the time you need, and then when it comes time, come back and do it again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what's helped me.
Yeah. It gives you some perspective too, right? Like when you're in the middle of it, when you're in the middle of doing whatever it is you're trying to do, and you're grinding
Mhm.
away at it, or you're chipping at it over time, you begin to lose perspective, and
Mhm.
you begin to get lost in whatever it is that you're so focused on. And then things like, hey, is this even fun anymore, or is this even like, I forgot why I started doing this, like I've seen that so
Yeah.
many times with creators where they're just like, I forgot why this was even fun for me, because they've been
Yeah.
doing it so long and they've been trying so hard to achieve something that, is probably no longer even the goal that they started with, and I think you're right. Like it's hard when you're trying to just push and push and push and create and create, and you feel like you're getting nowhere, and then you gotta stop. You gotta stop and regain some perspective, or some reach down and get some self awareness to see where you're really at.
Zoom out, micro, macro. We get so micro sometimes, but
Yeah, dude.
zoom out, take the macro perspective, because then you really see, wow, I really have come a long way, or oh, I've experienced a lot, and I didn't really take the time to like appreciate those experiences or really like reflect on that and build stories from that.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
yeah, man, the big thing is micro, macro. Go micro when you got to go micro, but have the wherewithal and self awareness to zoom out, go macro. You
Yeah,
know,
that's certainly, dude. That's just, it's so important, and I think that you hit the nail on the head, man. And I mean, like you said, you had to stop, and like you yourself had to take a moment. And
yeah, it's humbling because if you're a Twitch streamer for the longest time and that's all you've been doing,
yeah,
and then
dude,
all of a sudden you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like
who
who
am
am I?
I?
I'm still a human being. And maybe there's
Yeah,
something else I want to try my hand at. And
yeah,
who knows? You might be good at that too, but
yeah, dude.
there's nothing wrong with taking a step back.
And to speak to that, I have a story about like taking your time, right? And I touched on
Mhm.
this earlier. I stopped streaming after almost 2 full years of it, and
Yeah.
I realized that I wasn't having as much fun. I realized I was getting lost in the metrics. I wasn't creating the way I was creating before because I lost sight of it. And one day, I think it's like it hit me. I woke up and I was so tired from the night before because I was up late streaming. And then I was like, why am I even doing this? And then I was like, at the time, I was 20 pounds heavier than I am now. And I was like, dude, I'm gaining weight. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm stressed out all the time because, I'm not getting, the rest that I need. And
Mhm.
I just, it was a knock on effect. And I decided that, I would stream less and just focus on me. And over like the next month, I started getting like, it started with getting more sleep because I was averaging like, was it 6 hours a night or less, which is
Yeah.
no good. And then it became, oh wow, I have enough energy in the morning. Maybe I can work out. And so,
Yes, dude.
dang. So I started working out, started losing weight, and then started actually I joined a gym for like the first time in like I think a decade.
Nice.
And then, but I gained some perspective. I started getting more sleep. I started exercising, and then I think when I really turned the corner was I decided I needed therapy to just like like gain gain that perspective back about like what's
Totally.
important to me, the things that I could work on. And since then, it's been like 8, 9 months almost. I've really regained like that outlook of like this is what's important. These are the things that are important to me. Quality time with friends, quality time with family, like creating things on my own terms, because I never stopped creating. It was just trying to do it in other ways, ways that I didn't pressure myself into like doing. And
There you go.
it's it's good. Like whether it's you take a step back and gain perspective from like not, feeling like you're creating the way you used to, or just having never created at all, take a step back and be like, well, what's important? What's important to me? And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude. So what stuff do you have going lately? Because it's been a while since I think I've kept up with you. Like what are
For
you
sure.
like what are you doing? Like what are you creating like lately? Like you've been writing
So
music as
yes,
usual.
a very very loose project that I started doing with another buddy of mine, um, Aaron DeRosso. He's in various bands. We came up with a project called Drummers. So
Nice.
that's like, we're both songwriters, and this is essentially my excuse, right? My I shouldn't say excuse. My truly my reason to create music as a singer songwriter. We're both drummers. We both write songs. We both play guitar, and this is a good way for both of us to come together. And I play guitar. He plays drums. He plays guitar. I play drums. We both play drums at the same time. Like it's just this loose project. Um, we do have an Instagram. It's like the only thing we have going. It's
Yeah.
drummers PDX. So should you
Okay.
want to follow that?
Yeah.
Um, so that's like a loose music project. And then I've got Bros Before Elbows, Bros Before the number four
I love it.
elbows.
I love it.
That's the pro wrestling podcast my brother and I have been running for the last like 4 or 5 years now.
That is so
Um,
crazy that you've been
yeah,
doing it that
dude,
long.
it's been, oh my gosh. And then what else have I got going? Yeah, just writing like random riffs. In
Yeah.
fact, it reminds me, I gotta make a note to myself. Um, just collaborating with other musicians and stuff, and just saying like, hey, I created this riff. If you want to put lead over it, or if you want to put lyrics and a melody over it, cool.
Good.
So
Yeah.
that's just like random stuff.
Yeah.
um what else do I got going? Oh, from time to time I've been playing in a band out here in Westland called the Audio Sequence.
Nice.
They're already their own established band, so I come in as like sixth man. I'm literally smacking tambourine, hitting the djembe, sample pad. Like when I can show up, I can
That's
show up.
awesome.
But they've been awesome to me, and so that's like been my on stage. I get to satiate my performance. When I get to play shows with those guys.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, been reading books,
Yeah.
and just spending, you know, beyond all that, really like when I have the time to do those things. Everything else is family time.
Of
Family's
course.
so important. Spending
Yes.
time with Liz, spending time with Rocco, um, and really just honing in on how important those experiences are.
Dude, they
You know,
are.
yeah,
They're so
because it's
important.
I've learned. Yeah, this is my own personal experience, but what I've experienced thus far in life is I've seen I've seen the chasing the entertainment dream,
Yeah.
and now I'm in a world where I see the chasing of wealth. And what grounds me, and I remind myself often, is really, in my mind, is the most important things in life are time and memories.
Yep.
And like, anyone can accumulate wealth, right? There's no like gimmick to it. There's no like trick to it.
You
It's
just
just
work a lot.
save your money.
You
Well,
just
that, yeah, I mean, there's ways, brick by brick, dude,
there's
literally.
ways to do it. Yeah.
And but what I'm getting at is like the wealthiest people say that they when it comes time to like creating their legacy, or they pass away or whatever, it's almost the same thing. It's, I wish I spent more time with my friends, or I wish I'd spent more time with my family,
Dude, yeah.
or I spent all this time amassing all this money and I can't take it with me. I wish I would have done things differently. And to me, it just shows to me, like, nothing wrong with wealth, nothing wrong
Yeah.
with it at all.
Yeah.
And the idea becomes, how are you spending your time? What do you want to spend your time on, and what experiences do you want to experience?
Yeah.
You know, and it all comes down to family, and it all comes down to, how you spend your time with your friends and community.
Yeah.
So the overarching umbrella is, what are you doing with your community of friends? What are you doing with your community of family? What is it that you're sharing? What is it that you're able to provide in terms of, your talent, or your curiosity, or,
Yeah.
just your being, yourself. um yeah, I think hands down, like, everything comes down to just that fun, spending time with family, because that's super important. So everything outside of other projects and such, it's like, I enjoy, running around with Rocco in the
Yeah,
backyard.
dude.
I enjoy going to the park, going to the zoo,
Yeah.
eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or like eating cereal in the morning, or, taking Liz out on date nights, like stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
that to me is more important than anything else.
Dude.
You know,
I think you're doing it right, man.
trying.
I think you are, dude. God, it's
Day
good.
by day.
It's good to catch up with you. It's
Heck
good.
yeah,
God,
man.
it's been forever. And so,
Well, I'm stoked that you're going to be doing more of these video casts, and I'm excited to see some
yeah,
of the other guests you're going to have on. They're an
yeah,
honor to be on
yeah.
these.
Actually, I have a couple more people that I'm working with to do more of these, and um the plan is to continue to just catch up with old friends who are
Yeah.
doing their thing in the world, whether it's being successful in their career, or if it's being successful as a creator, or just they're doing something that I find interesting, and then we just catch up and we talk about it, and we find out what I guess drives them and what motivates them, and hopefully we can glean some interesting insight and stories from it. And
Yeah.
yeah, dude,
I
it's
love it, man. That's genuine. That You're doing exactly what needs to
you're
be done.
doing it. You're doing
Dude,
yeah, well, yeah, and to give context, I sat down and was like, well, what what would bring value to me is someone who consumes and creates. And I found that along my story of, like, why do I do stuff like this? Why do I make videos, or why do I live stream, or why do I do weird stuff around video games? Like, it was always about creating experiences, and it was always about you know understanding how people engage with creations. And thought, and I thought about it and sat on it for a while. And I was like, what's the process? I know my process, and I know how I deal, and I know how I do things. And I found myself in this hole of, like, trying to, like, find out how other people deal, or how they not just deal, but how they you know continue to create when they're faced with things that either motivate them or don't. And I was like, you know what, I have a lot of friends who just do stuff, who make
yeah.
who make music, who make videos, who run, projects and initiatives around the world with their own missions. I was like, why don't we talk about it? Because I find that interesting, and I want
Yeah.
to know, and I want to apply a lot of that to my own creation, and my own I guess, my own way of doing things. And why not start by documenting it? So that's
Fair enough.
that's where we are. So Anthony, thank you so much, man, for your insight.
Thank you for having me, man, and
Dude,
asking questions. I love it.
dude, we need to do it again sometime and
Heck yeah.
check-ins. And
Yeah, it's been far too long, that's
it's
for
been
sure.
far too long, man. It's good talking to you. All right. Any final thoughts? I think you got it.
Do good things.
Do you think do good things? We'll end on that.